Durant said no to Curry, Kevin Durant had the door wide open to return to the Golden State Warriors, and he still walked away from it. Not from a rebuilding team, not from a franchise with no history, not from some desperate rumor thrown into the NBA trade machine. This was Golden State. This was Stephen Curry. This was the place where Durant won 2 championships, 2 finals MVPs, and helped create one of the most unstoppable basketball machines the league has ever seen. And somehow, when Curry picked up the phone and asked if there was a chance to do it again, Durant's answer was not excitement. It was hesitation. Then it was no. That one word changed everything, because the Warriors were not just casually checking in. They were serious. Golden State was looking at the final years of Curry's prime and asking the question every championship organization eventually has to ask: how much of the future are we willing to sacrifice for one more shot right now? Jonathan Kuminga's name was reportedly part of the conversation. Draft picks were part of the conversation. Multiple teams were involved. This was not fantasy basketball. This was a real attempt to bring Durant back to the Bay Area and reunite 2 of the greatest offensive forces the sport has ever seen. But the only person who could truly approve that reunion was Kevin Durant. And Durant did not feel right about it. That is where this story becomes bigger than basketball. Because on paper, a Curry-Durant reunion sounds terrifying. 2 legends, 1 last championship chase, 1 more chance to remind the NBA what happened the last time they shared the floor. But history is never just numbers. It is emotion. It is memory. It is every uncomfortable interview, every locker room fracture, every rumor, every criticism, every moment Durant felt like he was winning in Golden State while still standing outside the heart of the dynasty. Golden State gave Durant rings, but it never fully gave him ownership of the story. And that is the tension hiding underneath this entire saga. Curry respected him, the Warriors valued him, Draymond Green was ready to welcome him back. Steve Kerr understood why Durant might not want to relive the pressure, but Durant had already spent years trying to escape the shadow of that decision from 2016, when he left Oklahoma City and joined the very team that had beaten him. He had already heard the jokes, the criticism, the easy road label, the endless debates about whether his championships counted the same. He had already lived through the strange reality of being the best player in the finals, while still being treated by many fans like a guest inside Curry's house. So when the chance came to go back, Durant was not just choosing between Phoenix and Golden State, he was choosing between peace and repetition. Curry understood that, and maybe that is what makes his story so powerful. There was no public war, no dramatic insult, no bitter breakup sequel. Just one superstar asking another if the past still had one more chapter left, and Durant quietly saying that it did not feel like the right time. But the question now is bigger than Durant. What does this rejection say about the Warriors? What does it say about Curry's final championship window? And what does it say about a player like Durant, who has spent his entire career chasing greatness while also chasing a place where that greatness finally feels like his own? Before we go deeper, tell me where you are watching from right now. Are you watching from California, New York, Texas, or somewhere outside the United States? And be honest, if you think Durant made the right decision by saying no to the Warriors, comment 1. If you think he should have gone back and chased one more ring with Curry, comment 2. Also, subscribe to the channel, because this story is about to get much deeper. The decision that split the NBA. To understand why Kevin Durant said no to the Warriors years later, you have to go back to the summer that changed everything. In 2016, Durant did not just leave Oklahoma City. He left a franchise that had built around him, believed in him, defended him, and expected him to be the player who would finally bring a championship to that city. And he did not leave for some random contender searching for an identity. He left for the Golden State Warriors, the same team that had just beaten the Thunder after Oklahoma City had a 3-1 lead in the Western Conference Final. That is why the reaction was so explosive. Fans did not see it as a normal free agency move. They saw it as a superstar joining the team that had just ended his season. They saw it as a former MVP walking into a 7-3 win machine. They saw it as the rich getting richer and the rest of the league being forced to watch the NBA's balance of power collapse overnight. Durant became the villain before he even played a single game in a Warriors jersey. Every headline became a judgment. Every debate show questioned his competitive spirit. Every fan base outside the Bay Area wanted to know how one of the best scorers in basketball history could join a team that already had Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Andre Iguodala, elite coaching, championship DNA, and a system that had already broken regular season record. But what made the situation even more complicated was this. Durant was walking into greatness, but it was not greatness he had built. That matters. Curry was already the face of the franchise. Klay was already part of the Warriors' soul. Draymond was already the emotional engine. Andre was already a Finals MVP in Golden State. Steve Kerr's system was already celebrated as the future of basketball. The fans already had their heroes. The culture already had its fingerprints. Durant arrived with more talent than almost anyone in the building, but he arrived late to a story that had already become legendary. And from the first day, that created a strange kind of pressure. If the Warriors won, people would say they were supposed to win. If Durant dominated, people would say the team made it easy. If Curry shined, people would say it was still Curry's house. If Durant struggled, critics would attack him even harder. That is the trap Durant walked into. He went to Golden State to win, and he did win. But he also stepped into a situation where winning alone would never silence the noise. The scoreboard could say champion, but the public conversation kept asking the same question. Did this make Durant greater? Or did it prove he needed someone else's dynasty? And that question never really disappeared. Curry's silence and Durant's first doubt. The strangest part of the whole story is that Durant's first concern was not about touches, shots, money, or trophies. It was about Stephen Curry. When Durant's move to Golden State became official, Curry was away with his family. He was not immediately in front of cameras. He was not flooding social media with celebration. He was not instantly performing excitement for the public. To most people, that meant nothing. Curry was simply living his life when the biggest NBA news of the summer broke. But to Durant, that silence carried weight. Because when you are stepping into another superstar's world, every small signal feels bigger. Every pause feels like a message. Every delayed reaction becomes something to decode. Durant knew Curry was the face of the Warriors. He knew the locker room flowed through him. He knew that no matter how welcoming the front office was, no matter how strong the recruiting pitch sounded, none of it would matter if Curry did not truly want him there. That is the emotional detail that makes this story so human. Durant was one of the greatest players alive. Already an MVP, already a scoring champion, already one of the most impossible covers the league had ever seen. But even he wondered if he was wanted. Curry eventually made it clear that Durant was welcome. The Warrior stars had recruited him. They wanted him. They believed he could take them from great to nearly unbeatable. Curry's style was never loud or political. He was calm, open, and secure enough to let another superstar enter his space. But Durant's first doubt mattered because it showed what he was carrying from the beginning. He did not just want to win. He wanted to belong. And belonging is different from being accepted. A team can accept you because you help them win. A franchise can celebrate you because you deliver banners. A fan base can cheer your shots because they lead to championships. But belonging means something deeper. It means the room feels like yours even when you are not scoring. It means the story feels like yours even when someone else is holding the microphone. That was always the hard part in Golden State. Curry did not push Durant away. In many ways, Curry made the partnership possible. He gave up touches, he adjusted, he allowed Durant to be Durant, but Curry could not give Durant the one thing Durant seemed to crave most: the feeling of being part of the Warriors from the beginning. That history already belonged to someone else. And once that seed was planted, it grew quietly through every win, every trophy, every interview, every headline, and every conversation about whose team it really was. The Warriors looked perfect from the outside. Inside, the fit was already more complicated than anyone wanted to admit. Winning everything but owning nothing. On the court, Kevin Durant's time with the Warriors was almost impossible to criticize. He delivered. He scored in every way imaginable. He gave Golden State the one thing that even their beautiful motion offense sometimes needed: a player who could ignore the system, rise over a defender, and create a clean shot from nothing. When playoff defenses tightened, Durant was the emergency button. When the game slowed down, he became the answer. And in the finals, he was not just good, he was overwhelming. Durant won back-to-back Finals MVP awards. He hit shots that broke opponents mentally. He gave Golden State a level of offensive security that made the rest of the league feel helpless. With Curry bending defenses from 30 feet, Klay stretching the floor, Draymond controlling tempo, and Durant standing above every matchup, the Warriors became less like a team and more like a problem with no solution. But that is where the contradiction begins. Durant was essential, yet he was still treated like an addition. He could be the best player in a final series and still hear that it was Curry's team. He could win the award and still hear that he joined something already built. He could dominate the biggest stage and still hear that the Warriors would have been great without him. That kind of conversation wears on a player, because athletes do not just compete for rings, they compete for meaning. They want their work to be understood. They want their greatness to be seen clearly. Durant's numbers were undeniable, but the public kept filtering them through one phrase: 7-3 win team. That number became a shadow. Every Durant achievement in Golden State came with an invisible asterisk from his critics. 2 championships? Yes, but look who he joined. Finals MVP? Yes, But look at the spacing around him. Historic efficiency? Yes. But look at Curry's gravity. Big shots? Yes. But the team was already loaded. Durant could not escape the yes, but. And maybe that is why the success never felt simple. The Warriors were winning, but Durant was fighting a separate battle for credit, identity, and emotional ownership. The team celebrated together, but the outside world kept separating them. Curry was the beloved homegrown icon. Durant was the superstar import. Curry was the foundation. Durant was the weapon added later. That does not mean the locker room hated him. That does not mean Curry resented him. That does not mean Durant was jealous. It means the structure was complicated from day one. In Golden State, Durant got what every superstar says he wants: winning basketball, elite teammates, a championship culture, national relevance, and deep playoff runs. But he also discovered that winning inside someone else's story can still feel incomplete, and that is the painful irony of his Warriors chapter. Durant had everything a player could want, except the feeling that it was fully his. The Draymond incident that exposed the crack. Every dynasty has one moment where the truth finally comes out. For the Warriors, that moment came between Kevin Durant and Draymond Green. At first, it looked like a normal basketball argument. A late-game possession went wrong, emotions were high, two intense competitors disagreed. But this was never just about one play. This was about everything that had been building under the surface since Durant arrived in Golden State. Draymond touched the one issue Durant could never fully escape: loyalty. Was Durant really part of the Warriors' future? Was he committed to the team? Or was he just passing through until free agency gave him another exit? That question cut deep because Durant had already been living with that feeling. He was accepted in Golden State, but he never fully felt like one of the original guys. The Warriors suspended Draymond, but the damage had already been done. A suspension could not erase the words. It could not repair trust. It could not force the locker room to have the real conversation. Durant later made it clear that the biggest problem was not only the argument itself, but the way the organization handled the aftermath. He wanted honesty. He wanted the room to face what happened. Instead, it felt like Golden State tried to move on too quickly, and that is how tension survives inside a winning team. The Warriors kept winning games. They still looked dangerous. They still had Curry, Clay, Draymond, and Durant. But every interview felt heavier. Every rumor felt louder. Every loss became evidence that something was wrong. The argument did not destroy the dynasty by itself. It exposed the crack that was already there. The injury and the end of the dynasty. By the 2019 finals, the Warriors were no longer just battling the Toronto Raptors. They were battling exhaustion, pressure, injuries, and the weight of their own history. Durant's future was uncertain. The locker room tension had not fully disappeared. The media kept asking if he was leaving, and Golden State, chasing a third straight championship, desperately needed him back on the floor. When Durant returned, the whole NBA stopped to watch. For a few minutes, he looked like himself again: smooth, dangerous, unstoppable. The Warriors suddenly felt alive. It looked like maybe the dynasty still had one more miracle left, then everything changed. Durant went down with the Achilles injury, and the entire story shifted instantly. The rumors, the criticism, the free agency drama, none of it mattered in that moment. One of the greatest players alive was hurt on the biggest stage, and everyone knew the Warriors era would never feel the same again. Then Klay Thompson suffered his own major injury. Golden State fought, but the dynasty was breaking in real time. The Raptors won the championship, and the Warriors were left with painful questions. Did Durant return too soon? Did the pressure become too much? Could the organization have handled things different? For Durant, the injury may have clarified everything. Golden State could offer money. They could offer history. They could offer Curry. But after 3 years of criticism, tension, and emotional weight, Durant was ready for a new chapter. The dynasty did not end because the Warriors lacked talent. It ended because even greatness has a breaking point. Brooklyn and the search for his own story. When Durant left for Brooklyn, he was not just leaving Golden State. He was chasing ownership of his own story. In Golden State, Durant won everything. 2 titles, 2 finals MVPs, historic performances. But no matter what he did, people kept saying the same thing: he joined a team that was already great. Brooklyn gave him a different opportunity. There, Durant could build something from the beginning. No 7-3, win shadow, no Curry comparison, no feeling like a superstar guest inside someone else's dynasty. With Kyrie Irving beside him, and later James Harden joining the picture, the Nets looked like they could become the NBA's next super team. But talent was not enough. Injuries, distractions, chemistry problems, and instability destroyed the dream. Brooklyn had 3 of the most gifted offensive players in basketball, but the results never matched the hype. One playoff series win became the painful reality of an era that was supposed to change the league. Then Durant moved to Phoenix. The Suns offered another fresh start, another elite scorer in Devin Booker, and another chance to chase a championship. But even Phoenix came with problems: roster balance, pressure, trade rumors, and questions about whether the team truly had the structure to win. And while Durant searched for the right environment, one truth kept following him. The place where he won the most was still Golden State. That is why the reunion rumors mattered. Curry and Durant together had already worked. They had already terrified the league. They had already proven what was possible. But Durant had also learned something important. Going back to the place where you won is not always the same as moving forward. The Warriors wanted one last run. Golden State wanted Durant back because the clock around Stephen Curry was getting louder. Curry was still great, but the Warriors knew his prime would not last forever. Every season mattered. Every trade deadline became urgent. Every decision came down to one question: how do we give Curry one more real chance at a championship? That is why Durant's name returned. On paper, it made perfect sense. Curry's shooting and movement, Durant's size and shot creation, two legends who already knew how to win together. Even years later, that combination still sounded terrifying for the rest of the NBA. And the Warriors were serious. They were reportedly willing to discuss major assets, including Jonathan Kuminga and draft picks. That showed how badly Golden State wanted one more run. Kuminga represented the future, but Durant represented the chance to win right now. That is the difficult choice every aging dynasty faces: protect tomorrow or chase one more banner today. But there was a problem. Durant had to want it too. The Warriors could build trade packages. The front office could make calls. Draymond could say he would welcome Durant back. Fans could dream about another Curry-Durant run, but none of that mattered if Durant looked at Golden State and felt that returning would reopen old wounds. And that is exactly what made the situation complicated. Durant had already lived through the criticism. He already knew what people would say if he returned. The easy road conversation would come back. The Curry shadow would come back. The questions about identity, belonging, and legacy would come back. For Golden State, it looked like a championship move. For Durant, it looked like walking back into a story he had spent years trying to move beyond. And when Curry finally called him, Durant had to be honest. The phone call that closed the door. The biggest moment in the reunion story was not a press conference or a trade report. It was a phone call between Stephen Curry and Kevin Durant. Curry reached out directly because he needed the truth. If Durant was going to return, he had to be fully committed. Not halfway, not pressured, not just curious, fully bought in. That is how championship teams work. Durant gave him the truth. It did not feel right. That answer was simple, but it carried years of history. It carried the 2016 decision, the championships, the criticism, the Draymond incident, the injury, the Brooklyn experiment, the Phoenix chapter, and everything Durant had learned about himself along the way. Curry could have taken it personally. He did not. Instead, he respected Durant's decision. He understood that peace of mind matters, happiness matters, commitment matters, and if Durant did not feel right about returning, then forcing the reunion would have been a mistake. That is what made Curry's reaction so powerful. He wanted Durant back, but he did not turn Durant's no into disrespect. He did not create drama. He did not attack him publicly. He listened, accepted the answer, and moved forward. Golden State then pivoted to Jimmy Butler. Butler was a different kind of star, and emotionally, the fit was cleaner. He understood that this was Curry's team. He did not arrive with the same complicated history. He did not carry the same legacy debate. He gave the Warriors a new path instead of reopening the old one. For Durant and Curry, that phone call may have been the real closure. Curry asked, Durant answered honestly, and both men respected what they had already built. The lesson behind Durant's no, Kevin Durant saying no to Stephen Curry was not about hate. It was about peace. That is the real lesson in this story. Sometimes the best basketball move on paper is not the best human decision in real life. A Warriors reunion made sense for highlights, ratings, and championship dreams. But for Durant, it would have meant walking back into a storm he already survived once. Golden State had every reason to try. Curry's championship window is precious. Durant still has elite scoring, playoff experience, and the kind of shot making that changes a series. Together, Curry and Durant would have scared the entire league again. But talent alone does not build a championship team. Trust does. Clarity does. Full commitment does. Curry understood that. That is why he respected Durant's answer. He knew the Warriors could not chase a title with someone whose heart was not fully in the reunion. A team trying to win at the highest level needs everyone moving in the same direction. For Durant, saying no showed self-awareness. He has spent years being judged for every career decision. Oklahoma City to Golden State to Brooklyn, Brooklyn to Phoenix, Every move became a debate about his legacy, but this time, Durant chose what felt right for him, not what sounded loudest to the basketball world. He did not chase nostalgia. He did not chase the easiest headline. He chose not to repeat a chapter that had already given him both glory and pain. For Curry, the lesson is leadership. He asked directly. He accepted the answer. He moved forward without bitterness. That kind of grace is part of why Curry is respected far beyond his shooting. For the Warriors, the lesson is that the past can inspire a franchise, but it cannot always be rebuilt. The Durant Warriors era was real. It was dominant. It changed NBA history. 2 championships, 2 finals MVPs, and some of the most unstoppable basketball ever played. But not every great chapter needs a sequel. Sometimes the most mature ending is not another reunion. Sometimes it is 2 legends admitting that what they had was enough. So now I want to know what you think. If you believe Kevin Durant was right to say no and protect his peace, comment 1. If you think he should have returned to Curry for one last championship run, comment 2. If you believe the Warriors are better off moving forward with Jimmy Butler, comment 3. And if you love deep NBA stories like this, make sure you subscribe, like this video, and share it with another NBA fan who still debates Kevin Durant's legacy.